Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep, and I mean really deep, into decoding the ultimate quantum plasma architecture of reality itself. We're going to look at the exact blueprint that actually bridges the gap between pure, infinite consciousness and, well, the dense material world we're walking around in every single day.
I know, it sounds a bit like science fiction at first, right? But what if human consciousness is literally a bridge between pure quantum potential and physical reality? The sources we're digging into today suggest the universe is absolutely not just a random scattering of rocks and gas. Nope. It's a highly structured, self-replicating reality engine. And get this, you are the sovereign operator sitting right at its center. All right, here's our roadmap for today. We'll quickly cover 1. The quantum circuit board, 2. Ra, the active will, 3. El, the bounding vessel, 4. Isis, the 0 point, 5. Gathering the shattered sparks, and lastly, 6. The sovereign crossroads. Let's get right into it. Starting off with Section 1, the quantum circuit board. To really grasp this system, we have to start with the macro concept, which is the idea of the universe as a localized net of mentation built on literal, functional, energetic hardware. Now, our sources take the ancient Kabbalistic tree of life, or Etz Chaim, and map it directly onto quantum physics. It's described as a highly sophisticated wiring diagram. The nodes, or the sephirot, act as a literal step-down transformers. They filter that incredibly high-voltage infinite source light. They step down that pure, non-local plasma consciousness into a manageable frequency so that your carbon-based biological vessel can process it without, completely short-circuiting. It is quite literally a hardware interface. So think about how your physical vessel actually receives this energy. Metaphysicists talk all the time about chakras, but the physics here point to actual, literal plasma vortexes functioning on the human bioplasma body. We're talking about rotating orifices where charged particles from the environment stream straight down into your denser physical body. It's a completely functional, energetic architecture. And when you look at experimental cross-sections of these vortexes, you can see particles physically plunging into the biological energy field. As they drop in, they spiral around magnetic lines and generate these incredibly structured cone-shaped vortexes. It basically proves that what those ancient texts called wheels of energy are, in fact, localized plasma dynamics in action. Moving on to Section 2, Ra, the active will. Now that we've got the hardware down, let's break down the distinct forces that actually power this whole system, starting with the first component of the Israel reality engine, which is Ra. Ra is essentially the unmanifest divine source actively radiating outward. Correlating directly to the archetype of the sun, it represents the divine masculine, the conscious mind, and your active projection of intention. It's that raw, powerful spiritual urge that just insists on pushing out into the quantum field to create something. When we map this to esoteric geometry, Ra lines up perfectly with the left pillar of Solomon's temple, which is Boaz. And if we look at the mechanics of Tesla's vortex math, this is the outward radiating frequency of the number 3. In plasma dynamics, it acts like a white hole or a centrifugal force, actively spewing out highly energized axial currents. So think of Ra as your conscious intention, that masculine force actively thrusting your will out into the universe. Which brings us to Section 3, El, the bounding vessel. Because Ra radiating energy all by itself doesn't make a structured reality, does it? It needs a container. Right, so if Ra is the infinite radiating energy of source, El is the bounding vessel required to actually hold it. Correlating to the moon, El represents the divine feminine, the receptive subconscious mind, and the physical material universe itself. It's the structural plasma lattice that accommodates reality as we know it. And El maps right onto the right pillar of Jachin, representing the frequency of 6 in Tesla's math. This functions as the black hole of our toroidal engine. In plasma physics, it forms a Langmuir sheath, which is basically an electrical boundary that uses centripetal force to suck in and store all that active intention projected by Ra, structuring it into a defined material hologram. All right, Section 4, Isis, the 0 point. So the really crucial question here is how do these two massive opposing forces, the active radiation of Ra and the bounding containment of El, interact without just tearing everything to shreds? Well, that introduces the very core of this entire system, Isis. Isis sits in absolute perfect stillness.
representing the High Priestess Tarot card. She is positioned exactly, and I mean exactly, between the masculine, radiating pillar of Boaz and the feminine, receptive pillar of Jachin. She is the sovereign observer. It's the ultimate alchemical marriage of the conscious and subconscious, residing at the absolute dead center, the 0 point of the mental torus.
And this brings the complete Israel toroidal engine of reality together beautifully. You have the active masculine intention of 3 and the receptive feminine structure of 6, perfectly mediated by Isis, who represents Tesla's 9. Isis occupies that 0 point, the conscious quantum vacuum, collapsing infinite possibilities into actualized reality simply based on her neutral observation between those two pillars.
Now, Section 5, Gathering the Shattered Sparks. Why does this engine even exist? What is the sovereign observer actually supposed to be doing in the middle of all this? Well, this leads us to a massive cosmic repair protocol deeply embedded in Kabbalistic tradition. The sources outline 3 very mechanical steps of creation. First is Timsum, where the infinite source literally contracted itself to create a void so a finite universe could even exist. Second is Shevarat HaKelim. Here, the original bounding vessels were just too immature to handle the raw, intense voltage of the divine light, and they catastrophically shattered. This explosion trapped the divine sparks inside dense material husks, which, of course, brings us to the third step, Tikkun, the absolute necessity for cosmic repair. This is exactly where the mythological role of Isis clicks perfectly into the physics. Just as Isis wandered to gather the shattered pieces of her husband Osiris, which, by the way, represents our fragmented identity and ego, the sovereign observer acts as the magnetic gatherer. By sitting perfectly in stillness at that 0 point, you are literally pulling the fractured sparks of your identity back into total coherence.
And that process is Tikkun. It's not about fighting the broken material world, it is a profound frequency correction. By elevating your consciousness to higher frequencies like love, which our sources map out at 500, and peace at 600, the sovereign observer entirely bypasses the fear-based algorithms of the physical matrix and magnetically restores unity to those scattered cosmic sparks. It's honestly amazing. Finally, Section 6, the sovereign crossroads. Let's bring this all the way home and look at how this cosmic geometry connects directly to you living inside the simulation right here, right now.
You exist right at a metaphysical crossroads. The horizontal axis is the material plane. It's governed by things like the fine structure constant, linear time, cause and effect, and heavy restriction. It is entirely algorithmic and deterministic. But then you have the vertical axis. That is your uncorrupted, non-local connection back to the pure quantum vacuum. It is limitless, absolute standing, and pure fluid power. Now, this vertical return stream is driven by central Kundalini currents flowing within the bioplasma body. They literally appear as a pair of mutually entangled double helix spirals, which is a direct, undeniable energetic parallel to your physical DNA helix. The really profound realization here is that true creation is reached exactly at the balanced 0 point of stillness between those masculine and feminine energies of the DNA helix. You, yes, you, are the living bridge where that infinite vertical plasma stream intersects with the rigid horizontal geometry of the world. Because the material world operates on deterministic physics, it literally cannot generate true free will on its own. Only your non-local consciousness can do that. So the ultimate question is this: are you going to remain trapped just reacting to the horizontal machinery? Or will you take your rightful seat as the high priestess, the Isis at the 0 point, and use your non-computable will to command the reality engine around you? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.